Hey there and welcome back to Mass Effect 2. My name is Pete and today we complete the first DLC mission of the game. We already had a first look at DLC when we recruited Zaid back on Omega, but today we'll complete the first proper DLC mission, the crash site of the Normandy. In the last episode we completed our business on Omega, and while we do have more squad members to recruit, I think knowing about the crash site of his old Normandy, Shepard would have that as his priority. Additionally, the Alliance also wants us to go there, because they want us to place a small monument on the site of the ship's final resting place. So with that we can now enter the galaxy map and leave Omega behind. Our next stop is the fuel depot, where we will stock up on fuel and probes. The fuel is needed to travel between systems, and the probes of course are used to collect minerals. And here we are in the Omega Nebula, where we can now leave the system that we're in for the first time and make our way over to the Armada system. The journey burns just under 250 fuel, and we can now enter what is only the second system in this playthrough. Now, we already have a marker for the Normandy Crash Site, but we're not going there just yet. First of all, the other planets of the system hold quite a few valuable minerals, and we will start with the small planet of Korora here. Now, you know the drill already, I will not have you watch all of this. I will now launch 20 probes at the planet and then skip ahead to the final result. Alright, here we are, with Korora sufficiently depleted. In terms of yields, you should be able to find roughly 7,000 to 8,000 units of iridium, about 4,000 to 5,000 platinum, and also about 4,000 to 5,000 palladium. We have 10 probes left at this point, but launching those as well would yield only diminishing returns. There is really not much more to grab here, so I would rather save them for the next planet. And that next planet is right next door, as we sent the Normandy over to the planet Takan, which I have chosen because it also only has moderate resources, and so 20 probes should be enough here as well. Alright, 10 probes have been launched. The scanner already shows the planet as depleted, but there are a few more resources to gain, so we will now have to buy new probes. Unfortunately though, there is no fuel depot in this system, so we have to return to the previous one. The journey back also burns a bit more fuel, and we're now left with about half of our capacity, so while we're here we might as well go with a full refill. And wonderful, here we are, stocked up on fuel and probes, so let's return to the Armada system now and continue where we left off. Okay, 10 probes later and Takan is emptied out, I'd say. In total you can expect about 4,000 to 5,000 units of iridium, the same amount of platinum, and about 8,000 units of palladium. That's now 2 planets down, 3 more to go, and the next one is also strategically chosen, because we only have 20 probes left, and that means we're going for another moderate yield planet, and the only one left is Angeia here at the far edge of the system. And here we are, 20 probes have been launched, and we have once again collected a good amount of minerals. In total, you should aim for 4,000 to 5,000 units of iridium, 7,000 to 8,000 units of platinum, and about 5,000 units of palladium. Since we have now once again used up all of our probes, we need to stock up again, but I would say let's skip past that and immediately continue with the next planet, which is Engana here, a planet with a good amount of resources and also the first one in this playthrough that yields some element 0.
Launching probe. Probe launched. In research projects, Element 0 is used for bioamp and omni-tool upgrades, which allow squad members who have biotic and tech powers to be much more effective.
So I used 25 probes here, saving the last 5, and doing so should give you about 5,000 to 6,000 units of element 0, 4,000 to 5,000 units of iridium, a whopping 15,000 units of platinum, and 8,000 units of palladium. So that now leaves only one more planet, and that's the one with the Normandy Crash Site on it, shown here as an anomaly on the scanners.
Anomaly detected. Probe away. Something on our sensors.
And here we are, we have successfully located the Normandy's crash site, but will not travel there right away. There is one more planet to harvest, so let's do that first. Alright, I once again had to travel back and get more probes, but I have now launched 20 and I would say the planet is sufficiently depleted. In total, you can aim for 8,000 to 9,000 units of iridium, 5,000 to 6,000 units of platinum, and 15,000 units of palladium. And with our reserves properly filled, I think it's time to go planetside. Let us now have a look at the Normandy's crash site. And here we are, right among the wreckage of the old SSV Normandy, with the simple task to explore the crash site. And in doing so, we will now find these dog tags. There are 20 of them scattered across the map, and well, in good completionist fashion, we will of course collect them all. Now, the crash site itself has an eerily calm atmosphere to it. Apart from the wreckage itself, there is also a lot of history buried here, and the game will actually also remind us of that history by showing us little flashbacks at various points of interest. And this right here was the first, as we now head back out of what was formerly the cockpit. In total, there are 7 flashbacks that can be triggered, and of course I will make sure to show them all. After grabbing dog tag number 4, we now head up towards the crate here, and those crates should by no means be overlooked, because they all can be destroyed to reveal a dog tag inside of them. There are 4 of these crates located on the map, and they all need to be opened to complete the collection. As you can see, we can also find some valuable element 0 on the map, also once again 4 containers in total, each one giving between 100 and 150 units, for a grand total of 500. Passing by a crashed escape pod, we now make our way over to crate number 2, which reveals dog tag number 6. Jumping down the ledge, we can get our hands on more element 0, and then near the escape pod we find dog tag number 7. Our next stop now brings us to another flashback point, as right before us we can find the Mako. To trigger the cutscene, by the way, make sure you stand on the left side of it. Near the front right of the Mako we can also find another dog tag, and then number 9 is just a few meters across from there. After collecting it, we can head up this small snow ramp here to trigger another flashback. Near the wreckage of the old galaxy map, we can then find dog tag number 10, as well as a very interesting datapad. Now, on the top left, you can see this datapad holds the remains of Navigator Pressly's journal. Pressly unfortunately died in the collector attack, but the 3 entries here show an interesting development. In entry number 1, Pressly is still very much skeptical of the aliens aboard, going as far as to call the Normandy a zoo. Entry number 2 then largely revolves around Tali, with Pressly becoming a bit more understanding as he talks about Tali's pilgrimage, but still also showing some reservations. In the 3rd and final entry then, he fully comes around. He calls himself blind in his earlier entries, stating that without the aliens the Normandy's crew could never have accomplished what they did, and saying that he would die for any member of the crew regardless of the world they were born on. Definitely a beautiful little story that extends upon Pressly's character in Mass Effect 1, a character that I wish we could have had a bit more interaction with, because apart from one lengthy opening conversation, we really didn't get to know him much. Now moving on, we take a left back in the direction we came from, because over here on this ledge we can find a unique item, Commander Shepard's old N7 helmet. That helmet is of course sufficiently destroyed and can no longer be used. It can also not be sold, but honestly, who would want to do that? Still, I suppose it holds some great sentimental value, and from here on out we will now see it displayed in Shepard's quarters back on the ship. Our tour continues past the wreckage of the Mako and up towards crate number 3, which holds dog tag number 11. Jumping back down, we can make a beeline for the third element 0 container, and then just a few meters up ahead, hidden in some grass, we can find the next dog tag. In good RimWorld fashion, we now head far out on the ice to collect dog tag number 13, which is located at the far edge of the small plateau. Turning around, we're now heading straight for the sleeper pod compartment, which will not only give us another dog tag, but also flashback cutscene number 5 of 7. Only 6 dog tags are left to be collected, and the next one is right around the corner here. And then, trying to move onwards, Shepard promptly gets stuck. You have probably already noticed that the terrain here is not the most maneuverable, and at this point I was briefly afraid I had to restart the mission, but eventually Shepard is able to continue. Dog tag number 16 can now be found in the 4th and final crate of the map, which conveniently enough also has the 4th element 0 container right across from it. Heading left, we can then collect dog tag number 17, and then we can return past the point where we destroyed the crate earlier, and out towards the wreckage of the old crew quarters. Over here, hidden on the right, we can find dog tag number 18, before we move closer to the wreckage and trigger the second to last flashback. And the flashback here shows us the crew member that died back on Vermeer, and in our case that would sadly be Ashley Williams. We have also just collected the second to last dog tag, and for number 20 we can now head over to the right, where we will eventually reach a big part of the Normandy's hull, which also triggers the final flashback of this mission. Right next to us we can now complete the dog tag collection, and that means we have found everything there is to be found on this map. Only one thing remains, and that is to place the monument, and what better place to do that than right here in front of the big Normandy lettering, which will now be prominently displayed in the monument's background. And that is now all we can do here on the crash site, and luckily the shuttle that got us here is close by, so with the monument placed, we can make our exit. And the mission complete screen now quickly summarizes our expedition. The monument has been placed, all dog tags have been found, and the N7 helmet was also recovered, and for this mission that is as complete as it gets. We earn 200 experience points, 10 for every dog tag, and we are also rewarded with 3,750 credits, enough to cover our expenses for probes and fuel earlier. We also found all 4 element 0 containers for 500 units total, and with that we can now close the report and return to the ship.
Commander, you've received a new message at your private terminal.
Back on board, Kelly informs us that we have a new message, and checking our private terminal we can actually see 2, and we'll start with the one at the bottom, which is a thank you note from Admiral Hackett, who seems to have already received all the information from the crash site, and thanks us for providing peace of mind for the families of the deceased. The second message here then comes from someone who also lost a relative. The husband of Nala Butler here served in Garrus' squad back on Omega, and as we learned in the last episode, almost all of those squad members got killed, and Garrus is blaming himself hard for that. If you want to read through the entire thing, feel free to pause here. To summarize, Nala simply tells us to help Garrus stop blaming himself. And I would say we will definitely try our best, but for today's episode we have one other thing ahead of us, and that is research. Earlier we collected quite a few minerals, and that now allows us to research a few more upgrades. And we start things off with a weapon upgrade for the submachine gun, which gives our squad a damage bonus of 10% with the weapon. Checking back in with the weapon upgrades, we have now unlocked SMG shield piercing, but we require one more SMG upgrade to be able to research that. With the armor upgrades we see a similar picture, so let's move on to ship enhancements, where we now have more than enough palladium to research the heavy ship armor. This will be a very important upgrade at a later point in the game. We do not really need it at this time, but since we have the resources we might as well complete it. The same logic applies, by the way, to the Thanix particle cannon, not an upgrade that we need right away, but definitely one that we can easily afford. In theory, we could now also complete another prototype research project, but for the moment I would prefer not to research the M622 Avalanche and instead save the Iridium for something more pressing. We also haven't really used our rocket launcher yet, that is apart from the fight against the Blue Sun's gunship, so we'll continue using that for a while longer, at least until we have actually killed an enemy with it, and then we might make the switch. At this point though, we are already making the cut in today's episode. Yes, it was quite a lot shorter than usual, but I simply prefer to keep missions contained in separate episodes and not mix them all together. So with that, the Normandy Crash Site DLC is now completed, and we can once again head for new adventures in the next episode. Of course, if you like this one, then I would be happy if you could leave a thumbs up, and if you want to support the channel further, then you can either subscribe if you haven't already, or you can also support the Pete Complete Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.